Hello and welcome back to the Allan Kardec channel, where we discuss the doctrine of Spiritism as codified in the studies and writings of Allan Kardec. I think we all know how a human is born, right? It's called childbirth. No need to explain how that human was created to keep me out of trouble. But how is a spirit created? And what is the spirit like when it first comes into existence? I have to say it, I can't say he or she, because Spiritism teaches us that there are no genders in the spirit world, no male or female. That's a material, worldly thing that exists only on material worlds, such as here on Earth. Male and female is a necessary component of physical life to make it possible to create babies. Spirits are not mating in the spirit world to create baby spirits. So, how does a spirit begin to exist? What level of intelligence do they have when born? What is their purpose in God's plan? Why do some become good and others bad? What do they look like? Where do they reside? What do they do? How do they travel around the spirit world? Those questions are answered in Allan Kardec's The Spirits book, Part 2, Chapter 1, titled Spirits, which begins with the first section called The Origin and Nature of Spirits. Chapter 1 has a total of 8 sections: the origin and nature of spirits, the primitive normal world, the form and ubiquity of spirits, the perispirit, the different orders of spirits, the spirit hierarchy, the progression of spirits, and finally, angels and demons. That chapter is 21 pages, but I'm going to go through them briefly and go over the highlights of each section. Now, if any of you have read the Spirits book by Allan Kardec, you know that there are a lot of words and terms that were translated from the original French language that it was written in, and that might be very difficult to understand. So I'm going to simplify as much of that as possible. For instance, you might know by now that the Spirits book was created by Allan Kardec from communications through mediums, receiving those communications from highly elevated spirits of the spirit world. And it should be noted that those spirits used the term simple and ignorant multiple times, as shown in the Spirits book when describing the condition of a spirit when it is first created by God. At least 5 times they said simple and ignorant when explaining the creation of a spirit, or better said, what the state of the spirit is when it first comes into existence. Now, a lot of you have heard the word ignorant before, and it usually isn't very nice when you hear it. Many of us know the word ignorant as something degrading, like calling someone stupid or an idiot. But that is not the case here. You can actually Google or look up the word ignorant to learn its true meaning: lacking knowledge or awareness. It means someone that hasn't learned anything, no education. Question: can a newborn baby, for example, be considered as ignorant? Absolutely, yes. Here it states on Google, yes, in a broad sense, a newborn baby can be considered ignorant. Ignorance, in this context, refers to a lack of knowledge or awareness of the world and its complexities. So when you see in this discussion the word ignorant, when talking about newborn spirits, think of that, a newborn baby, not someone stupid. Now, one thing that is answered in this chapter that I'm going to cover: if all spirits are created simple and ignorant, then why do some turn to good and others turn to bad? We see in question number 121 of the Spirits book, why have some spirits followed the path of the good, but others the path of evil? And the spirit of high degree replies, don't they all have free will? God does not create any spirits evil from the start. They are created simple and ignorant, that is, capable of both good and evil. Those who are evil have become so through their own will. Now, here is another word that a lot of people are getting wrong. I have talked about this in previous videos. The word evil. That word, as used by the French, the language that the original Spirits book was written, does not mean what you think. That word, translated from French to English, is mal in French. If you don't speak any French, I just taught you one word, mal. What do we think of when we see the word evil? Someone extremely, extremely horrible, wicked, and cruel. Total brutal monsters. But in French, mal doesn't really mean that. Mal just means bad. In Spanish, the word is similar. It's malo, malo. In French, the word mal covers bad, inferior, imperfect, or evil. Why the translators chose to use the word evil instead of bad is a mystery to me, because that is exactly what the spirits were saying in most cases. Bad, inferior, imperfect. And from what I'm seeing from the replies to Allan Kardec's questions, the spirits don't even consider those particular spirits as bad per se, in the way we would interpret that word. They were only saying that there are spirits that haven't progressed to a higher level, and that alone makes them bad. And they are only temporarily bad, as I will discuss a bit later in this presentation. So, as I discussed this chapter of the Spirits book, you will sometimes hear me say bad or something else instead of evil. I will be replacing that word evil with something that should be more in line with what the spirits were actually saying, to avoid confusion with how we think of that word in today's day and age. There will be times that I will use other wordings instead of what you actually see appearing on the pages of the book, once again to simplify the words being used. For those of you unfamiliar with the Spirits book by Allan Kardec, the entire work is a series of questions asked by Kardec and answered by spirits of a high degree. As I said before, I have 21 pages I'm going to cover, but I'll be focusing on the more interesting segments of each section. That chapter begins with question number 76, where Kardec asks, how can we define spirits? And the spirit answers, we can say that spirits are the intelligent beings of creation. By intelligent, that doesn't mean that anyone who is not a spirit, like us living here on Earth, are stupid. Humans and even animals are also described as intelligent species. We have the ability to think, understand, solve problems, and adapt to our environment. That is what an intelligent life means. Question number 77. Are spirits separate beings from God, or are they parts of God? The spirit answers, of course they are God's work. So here we get the gist of where spirits first come from. Obviously, they are created by God, by the snap of a finger, so to speak. Every one of them. They aren't born as baby spirits. Which is why it would seem odd that Kardec would ask the next question. Did spirits have a beginning, or have they existed from all eternity like God? And the spirit, or spirits, makes it clear by answering, if spirits had no beginning, they would be equal to God. And a little later in this answer, the spirit, or spirits, want to emphasize how not even they, the highest order of spirits communicating with Kardec, or even spirits that have reached perfection, can tell you when God began making spirits or how exactly they are created. When and how each of us was created individually, no one knows. It is a mystery. Jumping to question number 80, we see, is the creation of spirits continuous, or were they all created together at the beginning of time or at a certain point in time? Now, that's a good question. Did God create, say, 1 billion or 1 trillion spirits all at once? Boom. There they are, all of them. And that's it? And no more were ever made? The simple answer from the higher spirits is it is continuous, which means that God has never ceased creating them. And there you have it. God makes a spirit. When that began, nobody knows. And God continues to make more spirits. And that process never ends. Kardec also asks if spirits have a point in time where they come to an end and simply return to the mass that they were born from. And the spirit assures him that that doesn't happen. Those spirits, once made, are eternal. They never die or return to any mass. In the next few questions, Kardec seems to repeat some of the things that he already asked, but in different ways, and very similar replies already given are communicated back to Kardec. Then we come to where do spirits reside? Where are they located? Question number 84. Do spirits comprise a separate world? Yes, the world of spirits. Question number 85. Which of the two worlds, the spirit world or the corporeal ones, like Earth, is the principal world for all of us, spirits and material beings? And the spirit answers, the spirit world. It existed long before all other worlds, and it is the only world that will survive. Think about that for a moment. That is something that is pretty much proven by science. Anyone who thinks that this earth will be here forever is terribly mistaken, unfortunately. Or the sun, for that matter. Let's take the sun, for example. Scientists have concluded that the sun has about 5 billion more years of life left. It does have a lifespan, just like us humans. Now, while most of us aren't worried about what happens 5 billion years from now, when the sun does burn out, that's the end of life on Earth as we know it. And it's a fairly good prediction that the Earth and all life on Earth will probably be gone long before that anyway, either because of climate changes that will make the Earth inhabitable for humans and most animal life, with some saying that that could happen within the next 50 to 100 years, or because of other reasons that will end life on Earth. There are others who theorize that life will end on Earth because humans will end up destroying each other somehow, possibly wars or nuclear explosions that will consume the planet. It is scary to think about how that type of destruction is currently possible and in the hands of several humans. Whatever the case may be, one thing is for sure. The time for physical life, all bodily life, will eventually end. There is no doubt about that. However, after that, we do have something to look forward to: life in the spirit world, which is permanent. It never dies. And if reincarnation continues, which I suppose that never ends either, since, like the spirits tell us, the creation of spirits is continuous, then those reincarnations will be taking place on another physical world somewhere else in the universe. The next section of the chapter is called The Form and Ubiquity of Spirits. To put it simply, regarding form, Kardec is asking what a spirit looks like. And as far as ubiquity, that is how a spirit may divide itself and appear in different places at the same time. In question number 88, do spirits have a specific, limited, and constant form? And the spirit answers, to your eyes, no. To ours, yes. You might say they resemble a flame or a glow. With regard to form as seen in the eyes of us living humans, we get more of that information in the next section covering something called the perispirit. I did an entire presentation solely on the perispirit in a previous video. The perispirit is the spirit's semi-material covering or envelope. It is the shape and form that allows them to appear to us as the person that we once knew. And that is how the spirit of a loved one, for example, a parent that has died, or your grandmother or grandfather, will appear to you when they visit you in your dreams, or to visual mediums who have the ability to see spirits. The spirit of your grandfather who died a long time ago, for example, will look like your grandfather when he visits you in your dreams because the spirit makes the perispirit, its form and shape, to look like your grandfather. Now, let's say if that same spirit of your grandfather, who you knew as a very old man, decided to visit someone that knew him, let's say in college, and that person who is still alive hadn't seen him since college. Your grandfather may appear to that person as a young college student, the way he looked back then. That is what the perispirit of the spirit does. One definition of ubiquity is the state of being everywhere all the time. Question number 92. Do spirits have the gift of ubiquity? Can a single spirit divide itself up and be at various locations at the same time? The spirit replies, a spirit cannot be divided up. However, each is a center radiating in different directions, and that is why it appears to be in many places all at the same time. Look at the sun. The sun is only one body, yet it radiates all around and sends its rays to great distances. Nevertheless, it is still just one single sun. So we learned that a spirit cannot split and be in two places at the same exact time. That question from Kardec is basically answered with Kardec's previous question about travel. So we go back to question number 89. Do spirits take any amount of time to travel across space? Yes, but they are as fast as thought itself. There must be nothing faster than a spirit's thought, if I got that right. And in the next question, question number 90, Kardec asks, is a spirit who moves from one place to another conscious of the distance it travels and the space it crosses, or is it suddenly at the place to which it wanted to go? Either way, if it wants to, a spirit can be perfectly aware of the distance it crosses, or such distance may seem to disappear completely. It all depends on the spirit's will and the degree to which its nature is purified. So, when it appears to Kardec that a spirit is visiting someone in Egypt, for example, and someone in Canada at the same time, and maybe someone else on another planet in the universe with material bodies, at the same time as Egypt and Canada, with these visits all seemingly taking place at the same time, it is only because the spirit can move so fast at great distances with a single thought. The spirits also make it clear that they do not all have the ability to go anywhere they want. Depending on their level of purity, some spirits that are lower in the process of purifying themselves are forbidden to go to certain places. Finally, we reach the last sections of the chapter where it discusses the order of spirits. In other words, their levels of purity. That includes the section on angels and demons. Once again, to put it simply, in the spirit world, there are basically three different orders, very similar to how we view people on earth. There are the good spirits, there are the bad spirits, and there are those that are kind of in between. They aren't bad, but they aren't doing anything good either. It is like humans. We have people that aren't committing crimes and hurting other people, but they aren't helping anyone either. Doing, for instance, charitable work, or caring for someone who is sick, or helping a child with school homework, if you follow what I'm saying. But in the spirit world, there is one more level to add to the three levels, a level that does not exist here on earth. And that is the level of being completely pure, perfection, purified. That is the highest level that can be reached. It is the level that places the spirit near God, right with God. Pure or perfect spirits no longer need to reincarnate, with the exception of a special mission, such as was the case with Jesus, because the perfect spirit has nothing else to learn. Their functions from that point on is to help lower spirits reach that level. And sometimes perfect spirits will come here and help humankind directly to move along in the purification process. Jesus, I believe, was one of those perfect spirits. The Prophet Muhammad, possibly Mother Teresa, and Gandhi. It's hard to say who were some of the perfect spirits that lived out a mission here on earth, but there were some. As I explained in another of my videos, we reincarnate to purify the soul. A spirit can remove karma from its developmental process by reincarnating and going through trials on earth or other worlds of living beings. For those of you who saw that video, remember the diamond story? A spirit, when first created, is like a diamond, covered completely in soot when first created, simple and ignorant, but with free will. Each time the spirit incarnates into a body on a physical world and returns to the spirit world, some of that soot or karma has been removed as it learned more from its trials. The process may take hundreds or thousands of years, maybe hundreds of thousands of years, if we go by our concept of time, because to spirits that will live eternally, time, minutes, hours, years, is not a focus for them. There is some focus on time when they are doing really bad and are struggling to progress, and they find themselves in a sort of purgatory, a sort of hell, and it appears to them that that situation is never going to end. That so much time has passed and it's permanent. But the passage of time for an eternal spirit is generally something that they don't think about. The soot on that diamond, represented here as a spirit, will continue to be removed until all of it is gone and you have a bright and shiny, pure diamond at the end of that process. According to the chapter that I just covered, it tells you that some spirits take longer to get there and others a shorter period, depending on how they applied their free will. But reaching that perfection is ultimately God's plan, and it is the goal of the spirit itself. Let's finish this by going back to Allan Kardec's question 119 in this chapter. Could God exempt spirits from the trials that are required of them to reach that first order? Which here is how Kardec is defining perfect spirits. What is Kardec asking here? Well, very simply, Kardec is saying that if God is all powerful and all great and all loving, then why doesn't he just create the spirit perfect right from the start? A perfect shining diamond right from the beginning, so they don't have to go through all the karma trials. And the spirits provide an excellent explanation for that. If they had been created already perfect, they would not deserve to enjoy the benefits of that perfection. Where would the merit be without the struggle? Besides, the inequality among them is necessary for their personalities to develop, while the missions entrusted to them in the various degrees of the hierarchy reside in the designs of providence for ensuring the harmony of the universe. And Kardec provides a footnote in his analysis of the answer by comparing spirit's life to human life. Why not just make every soldier a general? Why not make every employee of a workplace a supervisor? Why not make every school student a professor? The difference is that human life for a person is limited. No matter how hard one tries, he or she might never reach top-level positions on earth because of limited knowledge and skills with that particular person. Whereas every spirit, here's the difference between our world and the spirit world. Every single spirit, by going through the progression process, will have the opportunity to reach perfection, to be near God. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you'll learn when the next video is uploaded. You may also share your comments below, or if you would like to write to me personally, I can be reached at kardecusa@gmail.com. My name is Ciso. Take care and have a blessed day.